the story basically goes, Illinois cannabis regulators suspected, quote, systemic diversion, end quote, at major multi-state operator Curaleaf Holdings cultivation center in the state, a former high-level employee alleged in a recent lawsuit. According to a July 29th complaint filed in the United States District Court in the Northern District of Illinois by Matthew Kalmack, a former Curaleaf regional compliance director, state officials noted, quote, a vast amount of unaccounted for inventory, end quote, at the company's operation in Litchfield, Illinois. So, in addition to potential, quote, potential systemic theft, end quote, Brescia Brewer, then the Cannabis Bureau chief at the Illinois Department of Agriculture, also, quote, flagged numerous environmental health and safety concerns, end quote, including, quote, unlicensed pesticide use, end quote, according to Calmack's suit. Rather than correct that, quote, crisis, end quote, or address separate ongoing noncompliance at another Curaleaf in North Dakota, company brass fired Kalmack in May of 2024 after he reported, quote, violations of state and federal law, the lawsuit alleges. So, super interesting story. I'll paste it in the show notes. One of the things that I wanted to get your take on, Phil, and it's this section specifically, they talk about cannabis diversion allegations are rare in Illinois. And they attribute that to the limits on the number of cultivators and their square footage that have prevented the oversupply problems that depress prices and otherwise encourage diversion.
Okay, so I have a problem with that sentence or that concept, just because, like, so the limits on the number of cultivators and their square footage have prevented the oversupply problems that depress prices and otherwise encourage diversion. But let's say you're in a limited license state. You want to keep your prices high. You're not selling through all the stuff that you're growing. Wouldn't you still have incentive to divert it to the black market then? Like, it's not just that prices bottom out in your market, it's hard to make it. It's like you can still be struggling to make it in a limited license high price market and still be encouraged to do diversion.
True. That's an interesting thought. Well, I mean, yeah, they always talk about how much they're struggling. Yeah, I just thought it was interesting. They made note of that specifically.
I just love this story coming out when they're like trying to shit talk the hemp market in this state, because it's like just this whole thing being like, oh, officials looked the other way and the company's getting away with all this stuff. It's like, oh, so you don't like hemp because it's unsafe and it's untested and it's unregulated. But like, what if your regulators are shitty? What if the shit you're selling in the regulated market isn't actually clean? Like, do you have any ground to stand on? Because it sometimes seems like you don't.
Well, and again, according to his lawsuit, to your point, they said that state regulators remained deeply concerned about the conditions at Curaleaf's Litchfield facility.
See, and this is like this is like a problem in our country in general, is this like government and big business like having like mutual interests. Like, the state doesn't want Curaleaf to fail, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that, like, it just, like, I just don't trust these regulators in this state. Because like when you see things like what's her name, the CROO,
The current CRO, Aaron Johnson.
Yeah, like when you see her, like that event we went to where they did that, like it was like her being interviewed by Tiffany Ingram from the CBAI.
Yeah, the Cannabis Business
And it's like they're
Association.
clearly like buddy. It's like what are we doing here?
Well, I don't know if they. I don't know
And
if
like
they.
didn't she used to work in the
Right. Well, that's what
CRO's
I was about
office?
to ask. I don't know if they worked together, so maybe that's why they're. I don't know. I know that for sure. To answer your question, that Tiffany Chapel Ingram, who was interviewing the current CROO, used to work in the office of the CROO, the Cannabis Regulation
Right.
Oversight Office. Yeah.
And
But
that you
whether or
would
not they
have,
work together, I don't know. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
but then that you have like regulators like her advocating for certain policies, and it's like, where is the line here? Like, what is your job exactly?
Yeah, and I
Because like
interviewed.
when she does shit like that, like when she's doing events with someone from CBAI and she's championing policy to like rein in hemp, it's like, I'm sorry, are you a regulator or are you an advocate?
And it's a question that I asked Ray Long about, and he had I think you would appreciate his answer, and it would maybe even yield some more questions for you. If I recall correctly, Ray Long, who worked with the Chicago Tribune and famously kind of wrote the book on Michael Madigan, speaking of Michael Madigan, he said that, regulators can be called in as subject matter experts, right? But yeah, I'd have to get his full answer. But to your point, I think there's a difference between being like a subject matter expert and then pushing for legislation that like has what some describe as protectionist measures, right? Like limited licensing, versus the way that hemp licensing is currently. Like instead of adding some more structure to hemp licensing, it seems like they're saying like, no, all cannabis can only be sold in dispensaries. That seems to be the policy they're advocating or have advocated for in the past, I should say. Um,
I just think it's funny because at that like event that CBAI held that the CROO was at, it's like at the end of it, they were like offering s'mores with like edibles, like like part of a chocolate bar in it that was an edible that you could use. And I just think it's funny because like they talk about age gating all the time, but you know who wasn't taking IDs at that event?
yeah,
CBAI.
didn't think about that.
No, I literally just thought about that. I was like, what that?
Yeah, so I wrote, if people are wondering what we're talking about, I wrote this article on December 9th. You can find it at thecolememo.com. I'll put it in the show notes. It's a recap of a fireside chat with CBAI and the CROO. So on the right is Tiffany, or sorry, that's Aaron Johnson. And this on the left is Tiffany Chapel Ingram. And I did a write up of some of the things they discussed. Hey, there's Phil and I. We're talking to Tiffany. And Portia took that picture for us. Um, but yeah, we talked about things, and I had actually asked questions. So if people want to read about it, they can. I'll put that in the show notes if people want more context on that. Any other thoughts on that though? I'm not trying to shift away from it. I just wanted to say if people wanted to dive deeper, they could. You were talking about the age gate with the chocolates, and
Oh no, I just thought about
that
that.
was a
Just
funny
thought it was
thought. Yeah.
funny.
This is interesting. I just submitted a new FOIA, Phil. We'll have to maybe talk about it if depending on the results or whatever. I'll definitely publish it just like I did the last ones. But this section of the article says Curaleaf penalized for pesticide use lawsuit claims, and this was in January of 2024. So what I did was I just submitted a FOIA. I submitted a FOIA from the beginning of the program. I want to see like all of the fines the Illinois Department of Agriculture has ever issued. Because last time, if you recall, the article that I posted, and now I have to add that to the show notes as well so that people can read that. I started after Mike Foucher's request and went to like the current date, which was at the time was like 2023. So after this, or sorry, before this, I mean to say, he said that this fine was in 2024. So we should see something from 2024. Um, I can tell you that.
I mean, that is kind of crazy. The idea that like they're using unapproved pesticides on cannabis in 2024. Like, I mean, it was alarming that Verano did it in like 2022 or 2023, but like,
Yeah, well,
it doesn't make you feel really great about smoking shit off the shelves from these large producers in this state.
well, and this doesn't like I about said to be fair, but what I mean to say is uh, there's this interview. I think I shared it with you. The guy from Adam Knows Everything or something like that. Um, it's like your legal weed is poisoned or something like that. And this journalist did a study in California and found that, yeah, here it's Paige St. John. I'll throw it on the screen really quick. Just like to your point, what she found was that so when a state like California comes up with a list of banned pesticides, um, what the producers did was just like find random pesticides. So I'm not playing I'm just like showing it's your legal weed is full of poison with Paige St. John. It's with this I think it was Adam Conover is his name. If you want to look this up on YouTube, folks, I'll put it in the show notes. But yeah, her findings to your point, Phil. And I wasn't excusing their behavior. I was kind of adding context to their behavior. It sounds like if these allegations are true, that they're not alone in sort of like, okay, you're going to ban this list of pesticides. We're going to find these other pesticides. You know, but this is unlicensed pesticide use, so maybe this is different. I don't know.
No, I would imagine that means the same thing. Just using some kind of pesticide they're not approved to use.
Yeah, this was an interesting part of the allegations. During a state inspection on February 14th, 2024, regulators halted, quote, all product shipments from the Litchfield facility, end quote, after expressing, quote, serious concerns over units of missing, unlabeled, mislabeled, or unaccounted for inventory, end quote, the lawsuit claims. Again, if these are true, this part is funny when you say unlabeled and mislabeled, when you think of the hemp stuff, you know. I don't know. These are just funny observations I'm sharing as I go through this stuff. The other things that we breezed over, by the way, I don't want to, if these allegations are true, of course, the allegations of health concerns and the lack of PPE. And just again, for context, somebody like died, I think in Massachusetts, in a Truly facility, I believe, due to like not having PPE, I guess, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, essentially it was like fine particulate matter of like ground cannabis, I believe. That was like she was breathing it in.
Yeah. So, didn't want to breeze over that. Apparently there are allegations about that as well in this lawsuit. So,
well, and you just have to imagine like a lot of these cannabis companies, especially the big MSOs located in this state, are like just so swimming in debt and like not really profitable, if profitable at all. So you just have to imagine they're cutting, like they cut all the corners that they can. They're not like, you're not going to find like a gold standard of operating procedures from some company like this.
Yeah. Like you say, the business is hard in a weird way, Phil. I don't misunderstand me here, but I completely understand limited licensing. Because like if you want to get rich off of selling cannabis, the only way you can do it is if you like set up artificial constraints like that.
Or do it really well.
Or do it really well. Fair enough. For sure. I mean, no, absolutely. I know there's like home growers right now that's like, I can grow great stuff. Like for sure. I know a lot of people that are great. I'm not trying to say there's not room for craft people, but I'm just trying to say like inevitably I feel the price of cannabis will hit the price of like look at other plants we like regularly consume. Like I think an ounce of like if you get loose tobacco is like $10 or something like that. You can get like a couple of fucking you can get like a pound of coffee for between 10 and $20. Beans, coffee beans. Um I'm just trying to make the point that like a lot of different produce and especially like teas and coffees and tobaccos, like there's still of course very expensive versions of them to your point, right? Very good
Right.
craft, there's a good craft cigar or whatever.
Yeah, but most people just want like Folgers in the can.
That's ding ding ding, that's me. I'll just go and get Folgers in a can or something like that, not to give them free advertising, but I'm a basic bitch. But so to your point
Hey,
though,
it gets the job done, just like
it
brickweed did back in the 90s.
right, there you go. I didn't know if people were going to be dissing on me for drinking Folgers. People have in the past. But the point being, you get the point, right? Like I feel like for the most part, it's just gonna get like priced that way. And it seems like in Illinois, we're like hell bent on the idea that like an eighth is $50 or something like that. Like you can't.
Well, also it's like they don't even leave room. So like Michigan has like some crazy, insanely cheap prices. Like I wouldn't go below a certain point. Like
Right.
$100 an ounce is usually
Right.
like my floor for quality. We explore up from there. But Illinois just doesn't even like, so if let's say like you had the model that we do now, but the licenses weren't limited, but everything else was still the same. There's no way for like, all those prices would just be basement floor prices. Everyone would be dropping them super low. There's no way to like differentiate yourself or like give people a better experience. Like in Michigan, you can go to a shop that's a micro business that grows their weed on site, has a little consumption lounge. Like that's like a more premium experience where even in a world of like $30 and $50 ounces, people go to that shop to buy $50 eighths.
Right. Right.
Because they're good.
And that's the thing that
and like it's like the whole experience, and it's a small business, and you feel good about paying this person who you maybe even know $50 for their weed instead of like some random bud tender who probably doesn't love their job, who works for Ben Kovler, who everyone hates.
I'm glad you said the part about Michigan because like I felt like what I said right before you said what you said was like a little bit. I don't mean to say that again. I'm not trying to say there can't be $50 eighths. Like you said, I think there's a room for a craft product, and yeah, it
Right,
just
but in Illinois, they're really like, if there weren't caps and licenses, that's what I'm saying, is there wouldn't be any room for a $50 eighth because no one would have the opportunity to set up that kind of operation.
gotcha.
Like even if you're one of the craft growers in the state, like who knows who the fuck that is?
Mhm.
Like you had to raise like $10 million. Like we don't know who owns you. That's all
Right.
confidential.
Right. Yeah, that's the craziest part. And that's actually another thing that was mentioned in this that we breezed over, not with regard to the license information, which was what you were talking about. But there's a point in here that said, because there was an emailed statement provided by the Illinois Department of Agriculture, and they said Illinois state law dictates that, quote, all inspections and investigations of licensees are confidential, end quote. And they did not comment further. But to your point, that's another example of um, confidentiality.
Well, it's funny too, right? Like they want, like the state is like, oh, you don't want hemp. It's who knows who grew that. That's not tested, blah, blah, blah. But it's like Illinois doesn't do product recalls. They let producers handle that themselves. You're never going to hear about it. Investigations are confidential. Ownership information is confidential. It's like, what do we really know?
Well, all we do know is that the Chicago Sun-Times did like a secret shopper thing one time. I think that's the correct way to refer to it. And most of the products did not test as they were labeled. Some of them failed testing. Some of them were higher or lower than what was on the label. So yeah, that's I think all we do know right now. But yeah, I thought this story was super interesting. Again, people should read because we didn't cover everything in the story. Phil, did you have any other thoughts on the story? I know you said something to me interesting when I had first saw it. I'll try to figure out, but I just wanted to see. Did you have any other thoughts on this?
Not off the top of my head. I think I said them all.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I just like seeing this story. I love a whistleblower.
And yet, like you said, we'll see if what he said was true. So where was this? I'm trying to figure out. I think somewhere in this it says that Curaleaf was like supposed to respond, but hadn't yet. And like, oh, here it is. Court records show that Curaleaf on Monday requested a 3-week extension to file its response to CalMec's complaint, initially due this week. So they requested a 3-week extension. So, one thing I want to say to people that are reading this is, again, Curaleaf's going to respond. CalMec and MJ Biz Daily does say they could not immediately corroborate CalMec's claims. So these are all, allegations, and, it'll be interesting to see how Curaleaf responds. I think if you click this link at the top of the article, which I'll have linked in the show notes, you can actually see the court case number. Yep, here it is. You can actually go through the whole complaint and see everything that he alleged, because I'm sure they skipped over some stuff. Yeah, they're talking about the rodent, I don't even know. Pesticides, rodenticides, I don't even know. There's a lot of stuff in here, but the point is that there's going to be a response from Curaleaf, and it'll be interesting. Then there's probably going to be a response from them, and so on and so forth. The responses will be separated in periods like 3 weeks, a month. It moves at a snail's pace. But we'll continue talking about it on the show, covering it as things develop. But I did want to just say that about it. What you had said to me was, if this is true, it blows up a lot of the arguments the state likes to stand on about regulation, limited licensing, and hemp. So yeah, you covered a lot of those points. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So interesting stuff, man. Interesting stuff. Well,